Okay, where to begin? I'm mic'd up. Never been mic'd up before. Hello and welcome to the Dipstick channel. My name's Jack. Together with my housemate Ben, we will be modding and restoring 2 cars that we've bought. You can check out Ben's videos, which are already up and running on the channel. Why are we doing this channel? Why are we modding and restoring cars? Well, both of us have always been massively into machines. I mean, myself, I've always loved planes, trains, cars, motorbikes, you name it. If it's a machine, factory machines even, I am just absolutely obsessed. And I also love racing. So I have got a car shell that I'm going to be building into a full-throated race car. Why did I want to do a race car? I have been on a couple of track days. The last one I went on, we rented a Caterham 420. Unbelievably rapid, seriously fun. Just absolutely loved the day. So this video is about 3 things really. The first of which is what car have I gone for? I've bought a 1989 Classic Mini, or rather I've bought the shell of one and it's come with a few parts and also a C20NE engine, but more on that later. A brief history on the Mini. It's a true British icon, synonymous with British 60s popular culture, designed by a man called Alec Isagonis, who also designed the Morris Minor, which actually my mum had. The Mini was produced from 1959 all the way through to 2000, had lots of rally success in the 60s, and it was of course in the Italian job, so a very famous car worldwide. They actually produced around 5.3 million of them in total, which makes it the most successful British car of all time. How did I choose a Mini? I'd say the process was not that involved, because as soon as I thought of a Mini as an idea, I was pretty set on it for a number of reasons really. The main one is I just absolutely love Minis. They're wicked little machines. And in terms of ease of restoration, they're a really good option because there's so many people out there doing it. There's all sorts of different websites where you can get any part you could possibly imagine. Modding Minis into race cars is also extremely popular. If you just have a little look online, there is an absolute ton of different engine swaps, different setups, all kinds of stuff. The other thing in the UK is that there's the Mini 7 Championship. There's a few different classes, but as an entry level to competitive racing, it's a really good place to start. And I suppose in the back of my mind, I do have this idea that that would be something I would like to do one day. So all the research I'm doing and all the parts that I'm going to fit, whilst a lot of it's going to be custom, I am going to be going along with the Mini Miglia race regulations for the most part. It looks like a really interesting championship. I haven't actually been to it, but I'm going to go to it this year just to check it out and chat to a load of people. Going to these kind of events is always the best way to meet people and get more information, so I'm really excited about that. It's worth mentioning now as well, as I just said about the engine, it came with a C20NE from a Vauxhall, either from an Astra or Calibre from the 90s, so it's pretty hefty engine for something that's going to be about 600 kilograms. This is probably as good a time as any to point out that I really have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm a complete novice, so it's a learning journey that's going to be filled with lots of mistakes. One of the things I've already learned the hard way is that it's going to be more expensive than I thought it was. Racing is not something you can get into really cheaply. Of course, I obviously knew that. But actually the benefit of doing a Mini is that if I do eventually do the Mini 7 Championship, it is actually one of the most cost-effective ways of getting into racing. You can kind of spend as much as you want on building a race car, really. There's obviously a minimum to actually get it on the track, but everything beyond that is really up to the individual. You know, you can get fully custom suspension, or you can just buy it off the shelf. You can do the paint job yourself or take it to a professional shop. You know, you can get advanced dashboard systems for GPS laptops, all that kind of stuff. There's all sorts of options. So it's really just kind of depends on what level each person wants to go to. Me being me, I'm like a complete crushing perfectionist. I do really want to get it to pretty much the best it can be. In terms of the parts that it came with, they're all pretty cooked, to be honest. So I'm not really going to be putting anything back onto it that I already have. So pretty much everything's going to be bought. The second stage really of this video is how am I going to learn how to do this? I didn't really know the answer to that question, and obviously turning it into a race car is a bit of a different thing than just restoring it. There are manuals from companies like Haynes, which I have, but as it's race spec and I'm not just restoring it back to how it would have been before, they aren't going to be enormously helpful for me, unfortunately. It really is much more of a kind of custom learn yourself job. What is quite interesting that I have discovered is how good ChatGPT is. It's kind of like my free resident mechanic. Now, obviously I hasten to add, this is a piece of AI. You always have to double check everything. But as a learning tool to expedite the process of having to trawl through internet forums and articles, it has been, up to this point, absolutely immeasurably helpful. The other part to note is that whilst I am going to do as much of it as myself as possible, there are just some parts that I can't do myself. Any kind of large structural welding, I'm a bit worried about doing myself because it's a race car. That includes putting the roll cage in. You know, I think that should probably be done by someone professional. Painting, if I want it to look really good, again, needs to be done by a professional. All the sensor stuff, once I have the engine back and the ECU, all the electronics, probably need someone professional. And the main one really is the engine and gearbox. I could, in theory, take them apart, clean them and try and service them, but I want to get them done properly, and I'm also going to add throttle bodies, so it's really probably beyond me. On top of that, being a race car, they're going to suffer from quite a lot of stress, so I do want them to be strong and reliable, so it's best left to the professionals. So that brings me on to the third part. Where am I at? Number 3. Obviously, the first thing was going to get the car. I went up to a guy in Market Harborough who said it was rust-free. It's not. So this is a clip of the car on a trailer being pulled by my Raptor, which is the first time I pulled anything. Reverse that in there first time, which I was pretty gassed about. So unfortunately, that's all the footage I've got of me collecting it. I do need to be better at recording stuff because otherwise it's not very good for the channel. So I brought it back to an underground car park that is opposite my old flat, and then we went through all the parts. Day 1 of the rebuild. Just taking stock of everything. Finding out.
No idea.
We've got no idea. We're having to sort of reverse Google image search multiple components, which is a pretty good tool, to be honest.
Tool,
yeah. So that's where we're at. So we've got this custom front subframe actually made by not the previous owner, but the one before that, which is pretty good. But I don't really know what state this engine's in, to be honest. But apparently it was running a year ago, so we shall see. Now, very quickly after this, we got told off by someone. Suffice to say, it was pretty awkward, and he was quite aggressive, to be honest. But basically, it became clear that that underground car park wasn't going to be an option, which in hindsight is actually hilarious that I thought I could work on the car in there. But I already paid for it, so I was kind of just trying to save money there. So I decided that I needed to rent somewhere, but it's not that easy to find places, and a lot of places are very expensive. There's a lot of car parking spaces you can rent people's driveways, but to get power in a garage is quite difficult. So the next stage for me was basically to take everything to my mum's, because she's got a garage, work on it there for a bit while I decided what to do. But before that, a brief interlude. Okay, so quick interlude here. Just on holiday in New York, traveling from New York to Philadelphia for the day in a Corvette Stingray. Pretty tiny bit of kit, nice V8 in it. Sounds absolutely ridiculous. I think this is the quickest car I've ever driven, actually. It sounds incredible. Oh! Very nice. Here we are mid-hoist. I nearly had a bit of a nightmare. These started bending because I tried to cut the corners by not putting these supports in, but Managed to bend it back. There's a bit of a split there, so it's a bit dodgy, but yeah, it's looking all right now. I'm just hoping I can get it high enough to get it in the truck, but we will see shortly. All right, the next part of this absolute saga is that I've just brought a massive van down into the underground car park, and there's loads of pipes, as you can see, along here, and the van is very big, so I've scraped all along the top of the van along all these old pipes. I'm hoping they don't notice because I didn't take out the excess. Haven't actually seen the damage because it's on the top. Maybe it's better not to look. I can't quite believe it, but I've managed to just get the Mini into the back of the van on my own, on my ones. I've lifted it up into this van, and well, I had to drag it about 20 meters to the van because I couldn't get to the area of the car park where the Mini was because it's too low. I had to lift it up into the van and like push it into the van. Unbelievable. I am dripping. Once I had the Mini in the garage, I needed to do a bit of welding to the rollover jig. So you could see me doing that here. Not practicing the greatest health and safety rules here with no welding gloves, but they arrived a couple of days after that, so I do now have them. So at this point, I really didn't think there was that much body work that needed doing. That has now changed quite drastically. So the bodywork's kind of on pause at the moment until the car has been sandblasted. What I did then do is take the engine off the subframe, and I then had a conversation with Sprint Engines up in Rugby about taking the engine to them and getting them to rebuild it. I took it up to them the next day and had a discussion with the guy there about whether or not to do throttle bodies or twin rever carburetor. Haven't made a final decision yet because he hasn't taken it apart yet, but that's happening very soon. However, I did tell him I want it to be as boosted as humanly possible. So it seems like a pretty good starting point for me. And he is about to start taking it apart, I think probably this week or next week. And then, yeah, we'll make some decisions from there. So the next bit was big news. I've found a unit in London near my flat. So it was another round of transporting stuff and then finally putting it in the unit.
So I'm here at the unit, it's on the back of an old truck. Pretty good actually, it's like pretty safe in there. Nice like little community of people around here, and the guy that owns this yard, he's a really good lad.
So I then went ahead and built some shelving along the back of the unit. It's quite tall, so I can get quite a lot of stuff in there, which is pretty good. And here they are, thing of beauty. Serious carpentry prowess. Decided I wanted to add some more shelving actually, which I'm doing here. And then the next stage, I got the Mini up onto the rollover jig, which came with its own set of pretty big problems.
My next task is to link the two bits of the spit together with a pole underneath, because otherwise they keep kind of pushing outwards and it's a little bit dodgy. And I have got it way down at the moment, but what I want to be able to do is put this on wheels and the other end so that I can wheel it out and work on it here outside.
You know what's crazy? It's just like how much longer doing any little bit takes than you think it's going to. Like I'm just putting these wheels on. It just takes so long. You know, quite regularly fucking it up. So, yeah, I've actually just spoken to the guy who owns this yard. He's speaking to this St. Lucian guy who wants to build like a smokehouse in here and like do his kind of barbecue prepping here. Sounding pretty good to me. Barbecues for lunch. This is the yard that you can see. It's like, we've got a stonemason here. That's the guy that owns the yard. The carpentry team on the right. And then there's all sorts up there. There's kind of blacksmiths and stuff. So it's a pretty good setup here, to be honest. Okay, welcome back to the next section of Jack's Mini restoration, but he can't do anything right. Tried to put these wheels on. I've got it on the spit now, and I've put these rails in between. Most of the weight on this back one is going through the front wheels. These, as you can see, have broken. And on this side as well. So, that's annoying. We're gonna need some bigger wheels. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna get some bigger wheels and jack it up. What a nightmare, waking. latest update is I've gone and got some much bigger wheels that are rated to like 125 kgs. The legs of my rollover jig, which I've been calling the spit roast, were too short. So I've lengthened them now because all the weight was going through here. So now will be a better angle, so the weight will be more evenly distributed. So I'm just welding these up now. And then the other decision that I've made is that I am going to take the car to a sandblaster to these people in Malden. Just because I think with this being a race car, I want to make sure I get into every single nook and cranny so that it's kind of as structurally sound as it can be, because life is good and life is valuable. So we're moving towards a huge success. I finally got one of these spits together and I put these chunky boy wheels on, and then I just need to do a couple of welds at the end, and then finally I can get this car on a goddamn rollover jig. I always want to say spit roast. It is a spit roast. Technical term, rollover jig. So at this point I took a load of pictures of the front of the car and I uploaded it to the mini forum because I was unsure about whether or not I'm actually, on further investigation, just going to need to replace the entire of the front of the car. This is what it looks like now. We've got these kind of flaps hanging off the end of the cross member. It's kind of a patchwork of welding. There's all sorts of rust in there. So I think I'm actually just going to kind of replace this whole front section, the inner wings, the cross member, and the diagonal bulkhead, because I think for my engine and throttle bodies, it's going to need a box section. I've already taken out this rear passenger seat. It's just added weight that I don't need. But for the front, I am probably going to get a fabricator to make this whole unit so that it's just stronger and safer. It's going to be easier that way. Big moment here at the yard. Huge. We've got the Mini finally on the new and improved rollover jig, and I'm about to take it off these straps and then wheel it out. Wish me luck. We've got semi-success, but one of the brackets at the back is just broken, which is not my handiwork, it's the previous guys, so got to try and do that now. Yes, we've finally done it, which you love to see. There it is. On the jig, you can move it in and out of the unit, which is much better as we come into spring, and also is going to enable me to get it up into the back of a Luton van, I think. Let's see how that goes later tonight to take it to the sandblaster. Alright, this is how I'm getting the Mini up into the Luton van, which is extremely sketchy. Seems to be just about working. Famous last words. See how the rest of this goes. Another roaring success. I actually can't believe I managed to get that in. You love to see it, truly. So that's ready to go to the sandblaster now. It's going to look nice and clean when it comes back, and then we can actually start building proper. Finish off welding, all that jazz, before basically starting to build up the subframe onto it and get some wheels and stuff on it, so at least I can start rolling it in and out properly rather than on the jig. Just dropped the Mini off at the sandblasters. Classic me being me, totally forgot to record any of it, so that's just great for content purposes. I had it on the rollover jig, and they used a kind of forklift to kind of get it off, and basically the rollover jig fell apart. So all the time I spent welding, putting new wheels on, it's basically been for nothing. So that's great. So I need to work out what I'm gonna do there. I've just got to a service station. I've got 0 miles left on the clock. I've had 0 miles for about 3 miles. Completely forgot that I was out of fuel, and then just happened to look down. Thank God I looked down. If you watch this channel, you might get the impression that I'm quite a sort of hapless, buffoonish individual, but it's not true. I don't usually make this many mistakes. So yeah, hapless Jack. Many mistakes are being made, but you know, they do say it's not the destination, it's the journey. But in this particular instance, that's not true, because the destination is the car being a race car, taking it on the track. So it kind of is the destination and the journey. So, you know, double whammy. I promise at some point there is going to be some proper content actually turning a Mini into a race car. But, take this as a preliminary episode. The next thing really to keep track of is what I've spent. So at the moment, it is as follows. Car purchase, £900. Trailer rental, £59. Enterprise rentals, because there's been three, £366. The unit is £300 per month. Tools like Genelite, little trays that I've put up in the unit and all the shelving and everything, $576.74. Carbon fiber parcel shelf, $152.24. Carbon fiber door cards, $131.28. Carbon fiber bumpers, $261.29, and the carbon fiber boot floor at £227.28 for a total of £2,973.83, which is not looking great, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. I'm going to get a lot of joy out of it, so for me, it's worth the money. That's pretty much it for today, for this episode. I will be back once I've actually done some more work on the car. It's coming back from the sandblaster soon, so I can do some proper welding, get the roll cage in, and then we're into it properly. I've been doing a lot of planning online, so I've got a really good idea of what I'm doing to it, what sort of parts I'm fitting. So thank you very much for watching. Hit like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.